following the harrowing commencement of the Fall of X, triggered the devastating mutant massacre orchestrated by the anti-mutant organization Orchis. 2 mutants embarked on an assault against an Orchis filtration center. This facility was notorious for administering injections that deprived mutants of their inherent powers. The ensuing sequence unfolds as an intense and graphically violent action scene, serving as a stark reminder to fans of a mutant's extensive training as a ninja assassin prior to being a superhero. This is the story of the Uncanny Avengers issue number 1. Dr. Stasis guides MODOK into a dimly lit room filled with unfamiliar technology. MODOK questions why the lights are off. Stasis clarifies that their friend hasn't adapted to the light. They reach a sealed capsule with a glass cover. MODOK inquires about the friend's importance, and Stasis affirms their friend's significance, noting their good condition. Dr. Stasis initiates greetings and introduces himself and MODOK to their friend inside the capsule. Stasis explains the world's changes during their friend's slumber, highlighting the deteriorating conditions. He mentions their plan to rectify these issues and requests their friend's assistance. Stasis informs their friend that America has fallen and introduces them as Orchis members, taking over from S.H.I.E.L.D. to counter mutant threats. Stasis concludes by emphasizing their commitment to establishing a new world order under humanity's rule. MODOK is about to seek their friend's participation through blinks when an unexpected interruption occurs. Their friend shatters the glass canopy with a sudden, bare-fisted strike, leaving MODOK and Stasis startled. MODOK interprets this as their friend's agreement, while Stasis emphasizes the world's need for their friend's abilities and readiness. MODOK excitedly suggests obtaining a uniform for their friend, and Stasis happens to have an ideal uniform in mind. In a sunlit office, a blonde man wearing sunglasses holds a Daily Bugle newspaper. The front page features the headline Mutant Massacre, with Captain Krakoa in the foreground, displaying bloody forearms. Additional front-page headlines include the injury of ESU. Professor Gill in an assault and simultaneous attacks during the Hellfire Gala in Washington, D.C. Ben Urich, the reporter, gazes out of his office window and remarks on the increasingly captivating yet unfortunate times he's experiencing. Despite owning the Daily Bugle, he remains committed to his role as a reporter. He elaborates on the recent actions of mutants, who have united to establish their own nation. They've initiated the global distribution of medicines that claim to cure various diseases, but there's a catch. The medicines, supposedly distributed by mutants to cure diseases, have been contaminated and resulted in a significant loss of human lives. Orchis alleges this, though there is no concrete evidence to support their claims, and the mutants remain unconvicted. What is clear is the recent actions of Cyclops, now operating as Captain Krakoa, the emblematic figure of the X-Men. He has recently engaged in acts of terrorism in Washington, D.C., though Ben suspects it might be a false flag operation. The false flag operation effectively stirred widespread disdain among humans against mutants, leading to an exponential increase in fear of this group following the attack. Seizing the chaos, Orchis exploited the situation by deporting a substantial number of mutants to Mars, effectively abandoning them. Ben anticipates that the forthcoming developments between humanity and mutants will provide a compelling story. Fortunately, he has a reliable inside source. Amid heavy rain in an Orchis-operated facility in Kansas City, long queues of captured mutants are being coerced onto spacecraft destined for Mars. Orchis staff compels all detained mutants to receive a mutant inhibitor injection, or they will be dispatched to the Red Planet. Suddenly, one queue comes to a halt as the hooded figure at the front urges the others to escape, not returning to their homes. An Orchis officer in charge reprimands the hooded figure, who remains steadfast and unresponsive to the orders. In frustration, the officer brandishes an electric baton, preparing to use force. In an instant, the hooded figure swings her sword, effortlessly severing the Orchis officer's throat. The officer's neck spurts a gruesome torrent of blood onto the backup personnel trailing him. The hooded figure unveils her pair of glowing katanas on her waist, designating them as her signal and inviting those who opt to remain and join the fight. With her hood discarded, Psylocke launches into combat, cutting through Orchis troops with swift and brutal efficiency, creating a gruesome scene. As Ben narrates, she used to be the esteemed captain of Krakoa until its fall and the mutant massacre. Psylocke bears the weight of guilt for the successful attack, but it was executed flawlessly, and the katana-wielding mutant warrior couldn't have prevented it. Despite possessing psychic abilities, she opts for more lethal weapons, as noted by Ben. A barrage of bullets pelts Psylocke, fired by Orchis forces, but she deftly uses a deceased guard's body as a shield. This tactic has been Psylocke's routine in the weeks following the attack, allowing her to hide within Orcus launch facilities across the country and save fellow mutants. After eliminating most of the Orcus personnel in the area, she plans to free her captive kin before fleeing from the incoming Sentinels equipped with Iron Man technology. Monet St. Croix, also known as Penance, her partner, lends a hand in rescuing their brethren from Orcus clutches, doing all they can. With her twin katanas in hand, Psylocke relentlessly takes down Orcus soldiers. In the face of another round of gunfire, she grabs another guard and uses their body as a makeshift shield. Psylocke discards her spent human shield by hurling it toward yet another defenseless guard. She mentions the presence of children on the day of the mutant massacre and charges at him, wielding her katanas in both hands. Psylocke drives her psionic knife into the Orcus guard's helmet, ensuring that those who slaughtered her kind experience their agony in their final moments. Amidst the growing heap of Orcus guards' bodies, the dual katana-wielding warrior pivots her head over her right shoulder, swiftly turning with her weapons at the ready, prepared to confront the metal she can't slice through, as per Ben's description. A resounding clang echoes as Psylocke's katana meets the familiar round shield of Steve Rogers, the current Captain America. Cap urges Psylocke to calm down, though she's hardly surprised by his presence, believing he's there to defend the oppressors of mutants. She questions the whereabouts of the other Avengers for a fair confrontation. Cap, instead of an immediate response, hurls his shield toward Psylocke. However, it veers past her and strikes an approaching Orcus guard from behind, rendering the guard unconscious. Captain America's vibranium shield ricochets, disabling more Orcus troops, as he expresses his intent to collaborate with Psylocke and Penance. He cites his experience in combating fascism and emphasizes that their adversaries are ahead of them, necessitating swift action. Given recent global events, Cap believes it's the opportune moment for unity and hopes to recruit them into his Avengers team. Penance, reading Steve's thoughts, assures that the offer isn't a trap. Psylocke, however, conveys her resistance to lectures about her actions, pointing to Orcus' significant harm to her kind. Captain America urges Psylocke to seek vengeance for her fallen kind. Deadpool and Quicksilver join Cap, demonstrating their support. Deadpool mentions that the charges are ready, and Quicksilver states he rushed to Cap's offer. Steve introduces the two new members to the female duo. Penance confides in Psylocke, expressing her desire to join Cap's team. Psylocke responds by noting they can leave if the team goes soft, ultimately accepting Cap's offer. Deadpool alerts the group to approaching adversaries, and Cap reveals his intention to monitor an anti-mutant rally in DC that night. Captain America takes on the role of a tempting target for Captain Krakoa, drawing the attention away from the group. He then leads the team out of the facility toward their escape vehicle, as they lack a solution against the impending platoon of Stark Sentinels. Cap mentions that Tony Stark needs more time to develop a solution to combat them. Quicksilver separates from the group to continue his mission of mapping out all Orcus facilities in North America, a task he's almost completed. The Avengers in retreat board their helicopter, while Deadpool humorously contacts their fellow member to update them on their current status and inquire about the status on their end. Deadpool's contact, Rogue, engages in a recon flight at a different location. She teases Deadpool for using the endearing term sugar but doesn't indulge in his antics. Rogue attempts to approach an Orcus facility hidden in the skies behind cloud cover, monitoring her proximity before detection. At an estimated distance of 200 meters, an Orcus guard spots her, prompting Rogue to withdraw. She reflects that mutants like herself should develop ways to blend in more effectively. Over Krakoa Island, the former X-Men jet, Thunderbird, soars with Captain Krakoa and two other mutants in its lower bay. One of them, Blob, expresses a desire to return home. Captain Krakoa cautions against it, emphasizing the danger and the reason for their struggle as the new Brotherhood. Krakoa instructs Blob and the other mutant, Wildside, to ascend to a higher altitude and wait for him while he investigates the island for potential recruits. He adds that he'll return to their base alone should he trigger any alarms, then jumps from their jet. Captain Krakoa's rapid descent to the island's surface is accompanied by a narrative that exposes his history of deception. He has fabricated various lies, including his supposed invisibility to Stark Sentinels and even personal details, such as his real name. While some, like Blob, speculated he might be Cyclops, others like Wildside remained indifferent, dismissing both as his useless lackeys. As Captain Krakoa descends deeper into the pit beneath the Quiet Council's meeting chamber, the narration reveals it as the place where mutants concealed the worst of their kind, the very individuals he seeks. Within the pit, Captain Krakoa confronts a pair of twins and compels them to determine their destiny. He references their father, Baron von Strucker, who once shook the world, and now it's their turn to make an impact. Krakoa calls them by name, Andrea and Andreas, and extends an offer to join his cause. Andrea embraces Krakoa's offer, affirming that Fenris will proudly stand by his side, referring to his former name, Cyclops. However, Krakoa dismisses the dead name, asserting himself as Captain Krakoa. Meanwhile, Andreas, the other twin, requests assistance. Steven and Wade blend in with the ordinary crowd as they descend into the Grand Central subway station in Manhattan. The narrative highlights how Deadpool, despite his eccentric personality, could seamlessly mesh with the Howling Commandos. After his redemption within the Avengers Unity Squad, Wade experienced a devastating loss during the Secret Empire's ascension, leading Steve to feel indebted to him for that ordeal. With Psylocke and Penance now on their side, the newly formed team is prepared to confront the forthcoming challenges. The team, once a refuge for mutants excluded from the surface world, proceeds through the old Morlock underground tunnels to rendezvous with other members. Joining them are Tony Stark and Emma Frost, who maintains her disguise as Hazel Kendall. Wade greets them casually upon arrival. Tony explains that he's feigning inactivity to evade Orcus surveillance, and Emma does the same with her disguise. Steve inquires about the remaining X-Men members they were supposed to meet. Psylocke assures the hidden members that they weren't followed and asks Captain America if they were the reason she was recruited. The additional X-Men members who joined the gathering were Shadowcat, Rasputin, and Ms. Marvel. Psylocke notes the Avengers' need for psychic abilities, and Shadowcat introduces Rasputin, who will spearhead the assault on Nimrod. Emma begins to shed her disguise and her inhibitor ring, while Quicksilver arrives in a flash, delivering a report to Cap about the identified targets. Captain America acknowledges and initiates the Unity Squad's movement. Deadpool is on the verge of remarking on the group's name when Quicksilver swiftly ushers him away to commence their mission. Quicksilver swiftly gathers the other members of the Avengers Unity Squad. The narrative delves into his personal journey, including the revelation that he and his sister, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, were not Magneto's children, and the unfortunate demise of the Master of Magnetism during the Arakko events. The narrative continues, affirming Pietro Maximoff's role as an Avenger, validating Steve's belief in the redemption of misfits like Pietro. Captain America inquires about their destination, and Pietro explains that their target possesses atomic weapons. Quicksilver strains himself by transporting 4 of his teammates to the battleground. Captain America opens by asserting that Captain Krakoa's recent assaults have grown predictable and must be halted unless he resorts to actions that are irrational and inhumane. Rogue, in turn, inquires of Blob why he has aligned with the other side. In an angry response, Blob tells Rogue that she lacks the authority to question his choices while she stands with the Star-Spangled Authoritarian. He accuses her of showing no real concern for Krakoa and proclaims their group to be the New Mutant Liberation Front. The conflict ignites as Wildside lunges, swiping his claws at Psylocke. She attempts to telepathically persuade him to surrender, but the untamed villain rebuffs her, urging her to stay out of his mind. Penance confronts Krakoa, but the villainous leader effortlessly deflects her with a single punch. Meanwhile, the Fenris duo charges up and fires a laser beam that effortlessly pierces Deadpool's abdomen. Deadpool sighs comically as he gazes at his injury, and Rogue admonishes Blob, whom she addresses as Fred, for fighting on the wrong side. Captain America, asserting that Krakoa's actions, like theft and disguising himself in the enemy's uniform, violate the Geneva Conventions, launches an exacting throw of his shield as a projectile. The shield strikes Wildside and Krakoa with precision before Captain America deftly recovers it, narrowly evading an explosion from behind. Steve charges at Krakoa, determined to unveil the face beneath the mask. Krakoa declares himself as the embodiment of his nation's fighting spirit. He effortlessly catches and deflects Steve's attacks, aided by the Krakoan battlesuit, which enhances its wearer's strength, granting a significant edge in combat. Krakoa gradually gains the upper hand in physical strength alone, surpassing Steve. The narration underscores that the person behind the Captain Krakoa persona is undeniably stronger than an average human. Krakoa ominously clicks his tongue, deeming Steve's moves obvious and predictable. Krakoa malevolently suggests that he'll shatter Steve's tendency to be predictable. With a resounding crack, he effortlessly twists and fractures Steve's left arm, causing him to scream in agonizing pain at the sudden turn of events. While the X-Men's actions can be comprehensible given their history with Orcus, it remains intriguing to observe how Psylocke's visceral fury might potentially clash with Captain America's unwavering moral principles. With the inclusion of the formidable assassin Deadpool on the team, Captain America faces a formidable challenge in ensuring that this newly formed group of heroes apprehends wrongdoers without resorting to lethal measures. The task of bringing villains to justice rather than burying them will certainly test Cap's leadership skills.